Imagine being at the height of your career, millions of followers, countless brand deals, and everything you've worked for coming together. But then, in the blink of an eye, everything changes. That's exactly what's happening to British YouTuber and rapper Young Philly. Today, we're diving into the latest developments in his legal battle in Australia and the ripple effects it's having across his career and the entertainment world. If you haven't been following the story, you're in for quite a ride. Stick around because things are only getting more intense. So, what exactly led to Young Philly's arrest? And why is this such a big deal? It all began during his Australian tour in September 2024. On the surface, everything appeared to be going well. He was performing in front of fans in cities like Perth, Melbourne, and Sydney, engaging with audiences who had followed his rise from YouTube to stardom. But beneath the surface, something much darker was brewing. On September 28, after a performance at Bar 1 nightclub in Perth, Young Philly was accused of sexually assaulting a woman in her 20s. According to the allegations, the incident took place in his hotel room, where the woman claims he raped and assaulted her. These aren't just simple accusations, they're serious criminal charges. Young Philly faces 4 counts of sexual penetration without consent, 3 counts of assault occasioning bodily harm, and 1 count of impeding a person's breathing by applying pressure to her neck. In simpler terms, he's been accused of choking the woman during the assault. But here's where things get even more dramatic. Following the alleged incident, Young Philly didn't stop his tour. He continued performing, traveling across Australia, seemingly unfazed by the storm that was about to come. It wasn't until early October that Australian authorities arrested him in Brisbane and extradited him back to Perth, where he now faces trial. Now you might be thinking, if the charges are so serious, why isn't Young Philly still in jail? Well, despite the gravity of the accusations, Young Philly was granted bail. But before we jump to conclusions, let's talk about the strict conditions he's under. His bail wasn't just a free pass to return to life as normal. In fact, it's quite the opposite. He's stuck in Western Australia until his next court date, which is scheduled for December 19, 2024. During this time, he's required to check in with the police daily and has had to surrender his passport, meaning there's no chance of him leaving the country. And for someone whose career depends heavily on social media, this next condition might be the hardest of all. He's been completely banned from discussing the case on any of his platforms. Imagine being a social media star with millions of followers but not being able to say a word about the most critical moment of your life. That's the reality Young Philly faces right now. But even with these strict bail conditions, the legal battle is far from over, and things could take another turn once the trial begins in December. What makes this case even more complicated is the evidence being used against Young Philly. The prosecution claims they have a strong case, and they've pointed to CCTV footage and photographs that allegedly show the aftermath of the incident. According to the prosecution, these photos reveal a history of violent acts on the victim's body, suggesting that the assault was more than just a one-time occurrence. The seriousness of these claims cannot be overstated. If the evidence holds up in court, it could prove devastating for Young Philly's defense. But that doesn't mean his legal team is giving up without a fight. They've raised questions about the timeline of events, pointing out that the alleged victim made a phone call to a friend at 5:31 a.m. on the night of the incident, but didn't mention any concerns about sexual assault. This detail could become crucial as the case unfolds, as the defense will likely argue that it casts doubt on the victim's version of events. But as strong as the prosecution's case may seem, the presumption of innocence still applies. Young Philly hasn't been convicted of anything yet, and until the trial takes place, there's no definitive answer as to what really happened that night. While Young Philly's legal team prepares for the upcoming trial, the fallout from the allegations is already being felt across his career. And this is where things start to get really messy. Young Philly's rise to fame has been nothing short of meteoric. He went from making funny YouTube videos to becoming a household name, collaborating with some of the biggest names in the UK entertainment industry. He's worked with popular groups like the Sidemen and Beavis Squad, co-hosted a podcast with Chunks, and even have his own shows on BBC and Channel 4. He's also built strong partnerships with brands like Heinz, Meta, and Footasylum. But now, all of that is at risk. Since the news of his arrest broke, brands and companies have been distancing themselves from him in an effort to protect their own reputations. One of the first major blows came when the Sidemen decided to remove their 20 vs. 1 video featuring Young Philly. This wasn't just any video, it had over 40 million views. Imagine being a part of something that's successful, only to have it wiped away in an instant. But for the Sidemen, it was a necessary move to avoid being linked to the allegations against young Philly. And that's just the beginning. Footasylum has suspended their contract with him, and Heinz has pulled any content featuring him. His podcast with Chumps has been put on indefinite hold, and producers of his shows on BBC and Channel 4 have also taken steps to distance themselves from the scandal. For someone like young Philly, whose career depends so heavily on his public image, these moves are catastrophic. Even though he hasn't been convicted, the mere existence of these allegations is enough to cause significant damage. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on this case and other major developments. We'll be following this story closely, and as new information emerges, we'll bring you all the latest updates. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.